Hey everyone! Today we're going to quickly walk through setting up your development environment for working with ApostropheCMS and Astro together. If you've already set up Apostrophe before, this will be familiar since the requirements for Astro overlap. We aren't going to do a full setup of your development environment in this video. If you need additional detailed instructions on getting Node.js installed or a MongoDB instance running, you can look at our other setup videos on our channel and the write-up in our documentation. I'll include links in the description. Let's start with what you'll need. First off, very importantly, if you're developing using a Windows OS device, we require the use of Windows Subsystem for Linux, or WSL. This is required for complete compatibility with ApostropheCMS. No matter your device OS, you'll need to have Node.js installed. Depending on your final hosting environment, you may need to install or test a different version, but we recommend version 20 or higher. If you set this up previously, you can check your version using node-version. ApostropheCMS uses MongoDB for content storage. There are a number of options of how you can do this. MongoDB has a community server you can run locally on your development system, and they also offer a cloud solution called Atlas. Finally, you can also use Docker or Podman to get a MongoDB instance running. Again, we have more details, including a link to a repo for running MongoDB in a container in the written documentation. If you elect to host your development database locally, you should make sure it is running before starting development. If you're using Atlas, make sure to set the environment variable before starting development. You can check it is running using the mongosh command. In this series of tutorials, we're going to explore the integration of ApostropheCMS with Astro using the Apollo project as a working example. While Apollo provides an opinionated production-ready setup, the principles and patterns covered here apply to any ApostropheCMS Astro integration. The Apollo project has a mono repo structure with two main folders. The backend folder contains your ApostropheCMS code and the main app.js file. Most of the custom Apollo code is in the modules folder. In the Apollo project, we also have some helpers in the lib folder. The front-end folder houses your Astro application, including the standard Astro configuration file astro.config.mjs. The majority of the Apollo code is located in the source folder, but we did add some code to the public folder for creating a custom web component. We'll cover that code in the tutorial on creating widgets. There's also a root level package.json with scripts that help to manage both the front and back end. So there's a number of ways that you can get the Apollo code. First, you can navigate to GitHub and fork the Apollo project, and then go ahead and clone it locally, or you can use the following to just clone the repo locally directly. It's up to you if you want to add a project name or if you just want to stick with Apollo. If you do change the project name, you're also going to have to change the short name in the app.js file in the back end. Next, cd into the repo where you have cloned Apollo or your fork of it, and then perform an npm install. This will run a script in your package.json that installs the dependencies for both the front end and back end. Next comes an optional but recommended step, loading the starter content. Apollo comes with a pre-built set of sample pages, widgets, and piece content that helps you understand how everything fits together. Running the load starter content script populates your database with these examples and sets up an admin level user with the username set to admin and a password of your choosing. If you prefer to start with a clean slate, you'll need to create an admin user manually. To do this, you'll navigate to the backend directory and run a command to add a user with the admin role. The basic format is node app add ApostropheCMS/user:_add, followed by your desired username and the type of privileges you want to give. For example, if you wanted to create an editor named Sarah, you'd run the command node app add ApostropheCMS/user:_add Sarah editor. Out of the box, you can choose to make admin, editor, contributor, and guest level users, but you need at least one admin user. You can look at the ApostropheCMS documentation for more info. For the integration to work, both sides need to share a secret key. This is set through the Apos external front key environment variable. So you need to set this for both your front end and your back end. One easy way to do this is to export it. Adding this key will keep your content secure while allowing the two servers to communicate. There's another environment variable you may need. For the MongoDB connection, if you're using Atlas or running MongoDB locally on a port other than the default 27017, you'll need to set the Apos MongoDB URI environment variable. So for Atlas, you'll need to add the password as well as other information that MongoDB will give to you in the configuration. The setup for the front end or Astro part of the project is usually simpler. In addition to the Apos external front key, the only additional variable you might need is if your backend is running on something other than the default port 3000. In that case, you just specify the correct host and port, and you pass that in through the Apos host environment variable. These environment variables can be set directly in your terminal session, or if you want, you can create an environment file for a more permanent configuration. Now we're ready to start our development servers. This is where the dual nature of Apollo becomes apparent. You're going to need to open two terminals. In your first terminal, you'll start the backend ApostropheCMS server. After navigating to the backend directory, you'll run the development script. This starts your CMS up on port 3000 by default. You'll see some console output as the server initializes and connects to your Mongo database. Then, in a second terminal, you'll start the front-end Astro server. You'll navigate to the front-end directory and run its development script. This will launch your Astro front-end on port 4321 by default. An important thing to understand is that most of your interaction will happen through the front-end URL. Your backend will be running at localhost 3000, but you won't be doing much there directly. This is mainly for checking the connection and for certain administrative tasks. Your front end will be running at localhost 4321. This is where you'll do all your content editing and where you'll access your site. And that's it. You now have Apollo up and running on your machine. You're all set to start exploring how ApostropheCMS and Astro work together. In the next video, we'll dive into the core concepts of Apollo, things like areas, page types, and how template mapping works. After that, we'll explore the Apollo theme and all the components it provides out of the box. Thanks for watching. Check out the next video.